So.
Do you envision this tight end as more of a blocking tight end or somebody who could be used as a pass catcher?
We thought he actually, from a receiving standpoint, we thought he actually was a very good receiver. We thought he had enough ability, functional ability, to be an effective blocker. So we kind of liked him in the sense that he's sort of a little guy. He's not sort of, in our minds at least, he's not a specialist in one or the other, but he's a pretty solid tight end both in the run and passing game. More so, he's probably a little more, I would say, a little more athletic than some of the tight ends we have, and probably a better pass receiver. So, but we do like him overall. I think he's a good young tight end prospect. We're actually kind of excited to get him in the 4th round. He did have an injury in college, which should be fine. He may actually be a little limited when we first get him in. But we, again, everything looks really. Marchers looked at him, gave him a physical, or some at the combine, and felt good about him.
When do you expect him to be fully ready to participate?
I would say, don't hold me to this, but I think if off the top of my head, talking about it may be about a month, I think, or about 4 to 6 weeks, I would imagine. But we feel very comfortable where he is. In terms of his recovery process, and it's just going to be a natural thing most teams will do with players, and just bring him along until he's ready to go, and see how quickly he gets up to speed.
Nickerson, cornerback, how much of a concern were his chronic left knee problems?
Yeah, we felt pretty good with him. We didn't actually. Again, I don't know if I want to get into everybody's medical aspect of it, but we felt good where we had him in the 6th round. He's maybe a slightly undersized, but corner, but he's a very good corner. We actually were quite intrigued by him, and we thought it was a good value for the opportunity in the 6th round. And him, like some other players we were targeting, we moved back a couple of times. We're trying to had a little pocket of players, and he was one of the players we felt pretty good about that. We considered in the 5th, and then we moved out of the 5th, and then when we were sitting there in the 6th, we actually felt pretty good.
He played outside in college. Can he play in the slot for Todd? I don't know if you can answer that.
Yeah.
Can he play in the slot for you?
We like him being able to play both ways.
What are your projections on him, other than what you just said right now?
Well, just like I said, he's going to practice outside and inside. Obviously, he's going to come in behind Buster when he goes inside, and then he's going to work outside. He had a lot of production in school, and there's a lot of things we like about him to get him where we got him at, and we're going to bring him along.
Mike, how do you feel overall the 3 days went and what you achieved in these 3 days?
Yeah, I think not having the 2 second-round draft picks, of course, we made the trade. We felt very good how the trade turned out, obviously. And I think when we went into it, we're always going to try to see if there's ways to, get extra picks. The one thing with the draft always, we do philosophically, we've always tried to address needs in pro free agency. In the draft, we focus on trying to, find good value for where we pick. There were situations where, again, in the draft, we looked into potentially moving up. We also looked into moving back, which we executed a few trades, and we feel good about it. We feel we have some good young players. There's some guys that we felt good in our process. We like them both from an ability standpoint. We think we have some good character guys too. So again, it may not have been a large number of picks, but we ended up with one extra pick than we first started in terms of players. Plus, we added Henry Anderson, which we thought was a good addition for us for what he can bring to us, and we'll see how this thing unfolds.
Trent Maccagnan looked like he has a pretty he was a pretty successful kick returner in college. Is that how you guys envision him? He's a kick and punt returner?
Yeah, so he's kind of again, it's interesting. This seemed to be the year we sort of in years past maybe we tended to not that we planned on it, but it worked out and mostly drafted guys from bigger schools. This year in particular, we found some guys that we liked, and the way the board unfolded, they were there where we had felt good value for them. Trenton's an interesting guy in terms of his little history, where he first started off and eventually ended up at where he eventually ended up. But we liked him. As our process unfolded, our scouts identified him initially. He was a guy we liked. He obviously had a very good pro day. He's a very athletic back. He's a very productive back. He does have return ability, definitely from a kick return standpoint, but also we feel from a punt return standpoint. So this is one in particular where our special teams coach was very involved with. He went down and worked him out personally. He's every year, like our scouts, the coaches spend a lot of time evaluating these players, but this is a guy that really kind of caught his eye, and our scouts liked him too. So again, he's an interesting guy. He's a very athletic, maybe slightly undersized. We're going to use him as a running back, or line him up as a running back. But obviously, our focus is to see how he can impact us as a returner, and that's the part where we're very interested to see how he does. So.
This is before the NFL draft. You guys brought in two notable names in Crossy Rucker and Jonathan Hankins. With the way the draft unfolded, are they probably? Are you guys still interested in signing them, or are they probably?
I would say, like anything else, like we seem to, you know, the way the draft unfolded, and we knew there's some, you know, again, you go into the draft not truly knowing what's going to be available when you pick, and but the way it unfolded, there was guys that we felt good about. You know, Fatukasi, who we took in the 6th round, was a guy that we liked. You know, we actually going to play him as a defensive end, but he has, you know, a skill set we feel pretty good about. But the you know, it's going to unfold that way. We'll see how it goes going forward. I think, perfectly honestly, whether it's the pro free agency, and there's still players out there right now, if there's something we could do to make this position more competitive, we'll see how the college free agency unfolds. We're going on right, you know, about to go into right here momentarily. But you know, I wouldn't necessarily rule anything out, but we'll see how it unfolds. We feel pretty good. We've got some good young defensive linemen, and you know, so we'll see how it goes going forward.
Back to
Yeah,
the trade,
hold
you
on,
got
hold on,
Anderson.
hold on 1 second. We're going to Calvin, we're going to go VL, then we'll do Darryl and Kaz, and then we'll be done.
Made the trade for Anderson. You had a severe
Mhm.
injury. Did your medical team have a chance to look at it?
So yeah, so with trades, so when you trade players during the draft, so obviously we traded our 7th round pick, I think 235 for him. You know, he'll have to come in and he'll have to pass a physical. If he does not pass a physical, then obviously the trade will not go through. And then in the trade language, you generally get a, you know, if you gave up a 7th this year, you'll get a 7th back next year from them as compensation for it. So, so that's how that'll work out. And you know, they obviously were changing from a 3-4 to a 4-3 defense. We actually like the player, and we think he's, you know, I think he's 27 years old. He's going into the final year of his contract, but we liked him coming out of college. He's a, you know, excellent guy from a character standpoint, and you know, we thought for the value it was a good opportunity to maybe add a guy, and we'll see how he plays for us, and potentially, you know, young enough to invest in going forward.
VL?
In the last couple of years, you kept all your draft picks. Do you suspect that'll be the case again?
In terms of,
Keeping them all on the roster?
I think that will just play itself out through the spring. I think we were trying to make every position as competitive as possible, and you know, we'll see how they perform. And I think you know, as we go on forward, I think we have a good young core of players. I think, again, hopefully, I'm sure it'll probably shake itself out. But we have a young team right now, so it'll be interesting to see how these guys perform. There's going to be a lot of opportunities, but that'll work itself out through the spring and the summer, and we'll see where we're at the end of it.
You don't care about draft record, do you?
In terms
Care
of,
about your draft record?
I think my focus is to try to make sure we get players that come in and help us. That's kind of my main focus in terms of moving this team forward to the vision we have for it.
Darryl?
Just hope you guys give Todd a chance to talk. I know you're probably.
Oh, go ahead. He's doing that. He's doing a great job.
Just with Todd Kasi, is his role similar to Shepard? Similar? How do you see him as a player? They're almost the same size in 3-4 ends. So is there some
Same size, different players.
Awesome.
Same size, different players. Fatukasi can go across and go down and play nose, as I think the other one can as well, Shepard. But the way we're going to use them in certain schemes and the way they fit differently in our defense. So we have plans for both of them. They can play on the same side. They can play opposite each other. They can also give Leo a break, and they can also play at the nose. But we have them both slotted for certain things when we want how we want to use them.
Last one, Costello.
Can't let you leave without a quarterback question. You have 5 on the roster right now. Now that the draft is over, is it fair to say you're going to have to be getting rid of one of them here soon?
Again, we'll see how that unfolds here going forward. There's always conversations you have with teams, and we'll see, you know, how that unfolds here in the next little bit of time.
All right, thank you.